I started a new series about great people who accomplished impossible feats, and the first character we covered was Bruce Lee. In this video, I want to introduce you to 3 lessons you can learn from his life and mental health practices to improve your own. Lesson 1, Deference. A near fatal case of cholera left him weaker and smaller than other boys his age. He was scared of water, unable to ride a bike due to balance issues, severely nearsighted, requiring him to wear thick horn-rimmed glasses. Pair that with the earring he wore because of Chinese superstition and a stutter, and you can understand why his presence invited much teasing from his classmates. I'm of course talking about the one and only Bruce Lee. If this is different than the picture you have in your head of him, good. That is exactly the point. To pull back enough layers so that we can see what our icons were truly like. What actually made them tick? Why did they win? For Lee, the man he became has everything to do with the childhood he escaped. If I could only choose one story to illustrate the kind of kid Bruce was, it would be this one. After a run-in with a local theater guard, Bruce sought revenge a week later by spiking his soup with laxative. And then once the guard was in the bathroom, Bruce lit a firecracker stuffed into a bucket of feces, slid that concoction underneath the stall door, and listened as the foul mess exploded all over his target. Absolutely wild. Bruce's early life made him hard. In every direction he turned, he was less than. Weaker, smaller, slower. That made him difficult and stubborn, fully bent on proving his worth and strength by any means necessary. So he fought, wreaked mayhem, and bullied his way forward. But it wasn't long until Bruce bumped up against bullies that were bigger than him. First in the schoolyard, then later in his career. Upon meeting these barriers, Bruce had a decision to make: engage in a fight he would most certainly lose, or practice deference, temporary submission. I'd argue that the reason we know Bruce's name at all is because he chose the latter. Most are unable to subsume their egos and as a consequence, never improve or grow. In contrast, Bruce cleverly chose to temporarily follow. In the short term, he had to be submissive. In the long run, he planned to reverse the power dynamic. This strategy, which Bruce employed throughout his life, was key to his success. He did it to learn from fighters who were many levels above him. He did it to ease the tension with white reporters who peppered him with racist jokes during interviews. And he did it to climb the Hollywood ladder when no one would bet on an Asian actor. Bruce saw how valuable soft could be in a hard world. He understood that the only way to open doors that couldn't be kicked down was to be invited in. Lesson number 2, individual. We all want to follow a proven pattern, a recipe for success, for life, for love, for money. It's why you're watching this right now, hoping that some secret of Bruce Lee's life can be adopted to your own. But it doesn't work that way. Not exactly, at least. What I'm learning, and hope you will too, is that the greats have less what to teach us and more how. The goal of understanding their pattern of thinking isn't just to adopt it. Rather, it's to see how we might construct our own. As I combed through hundreds of pages of Bruce's biography, the next theme bled through every story. The individual is more important than the style. Bruce Lee was a kung fu master, but that reduction removes the complexity that made him so iconic. He was a Chinese man born in America and raised in Hong Kong. His father was a theater star who pushed his son into film at a young age. His brother was a champion fencer, and the mentor he stumbled into after yet another terrible street fight happened to be one of the greatest martial artists in history, Ip Man. His success was a unique amalgamation of his circumstances, preferences, and personality. When his rebellion reached a breaking point, Bruce's parents sent him to the furthest places he could legally and quickly transition to, which was America. When the rare opportunities for an Asian actor cropped up in Hollywood, they chose the man who had a slew of childhood acting credits already to his name. The speed and flexibility of his fighting style were heavily influenced by his brother. Bruce would even call his style Jeet Kune Do as fencing without a sword. A recipe can only be followed if you have the right ingredients. That is why no recipe for success can just be handed from one person to another. The ingredients vary too drastically. Bruce was a free man, unshackled by any institution. Bruce Lee was something new. Your life is asking you to become something new, to lean into your unfair advantages, to take the unblocked roads, to assemble the pieces already in your hands. And if you're not sure what those are, That's the work. You have to become an individual. Most people never do, but you're not most people. Lesson number 3, adapt. In attempting to explain why Bruce Lee won, we have to acknowledge how Bruce Lee changed. When his career in Hollywood stalled, he took a project in Hong Kong to pay the bills. When it did well and they offered him a bigger contract, he stayed. His martial arts style evolved after every fight because Jeet Kune Do had one principle above everything else: do whatever is necessary to win. When his technique failed to translate on screen, he adapted it again, incorporating boxing and karate and weaponry. A movie needed something different than a real fight, and he was okay with that. Bruce was decisively practical, and that practicality awarded him a continuity of movement few ever feel. His life had momentum, not because everything went his way, it very much did not, but because he saw every roadblock as a call to change something about himself and his approach. He was water. Be like water making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, and it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. But when and what should you adapt? Just saying you should be more adaptable is about as useful as a broken can opener. What does that even mean? The answer is wildly contextual. However, I do think Lee's life offers guidelines we can use directionally. First, adaptability is the child of awareness. You have to really know what's going on around you before you can take the right next step. Number 2, awareness is signal watching. How can I iterate on what I've seen work for others up close? And how can I double down on what's working for me right now? Number 3, adaptability is a mix of push and pull actions. As a general rule, you want to pull back, aka defer, when it opens up an opportunity you might otherwise miss. Then push when the result of your pushing will lead to greater rewards for everyone involved. And finally, adaptability requires movement. By not moving, you're either expecting the situation to change around you or confirming that things are satisfactory. If neither of those are true, do something. The tragic irony is that Bruce Lee's death was, to some degree, due to his inability or refusal to adapt. Lee likely died of a heat stroke. 2 months before his death, he suffered his first. He would have died that day if not for the public nature of the incident. Afterward, he made no changes. He worked himself to the bone in the sweltering Hong Kong heat. He lost weight and sleep, and he even had the sweat glands removed from his armpits so that he would look less wet on screen. On July 20th, 1973, when his body overheated in the privacy of his mistress's apartment, he laid down and never woke up. Adaptation is required not just for your success, but also for your survival. Flexibility is its own type of strength. If you like this video, come check out bendingpinksteel.com, a weekly mental health newsletter. I'll see you there.